Coffee Metal Podcast, episode 24.
Hello all, and welcome to this episode. Today, I have the hugely talented Sophie Campbell. Sophie has been doing amazing work in comics for the past 15 years, including her creator-owned Wet Moon, an acclaimed run on Glory, GEM and the Holograms, and more recently taking over the writing and art reins of IDW's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series. Sophie and I have a great talk about making music, Kaiju, especially some thoughts on Godzilla films recently, and what it's like adding to the lore of a beloved franchise such as TMNT, and just a whole bunch more after that. So, without any further delay, here's my chat with Sophie Campbell. So let me ask the questions of the podcast right off the bat. Comics, coffee, metal, what are you into?
Like my favorite stuff, or like what?
Just what's doing it for you right now? What's your favorite stuff? Whatever comes to mind, you know. And if you're not into those type of things, because when I spoke to our buddy Ramon, he's not a coffee guy, but we ended up talking about seltzer water. So.
Yeah, he loves seltzer. He loves matcha.
Yeah. So. Yeah. So yeah, it's whatever you're into at this time.
All right. So comics. I don't actually read a ton of comics these days. I feel like maybe a lot of pros say that.
Yeah, it's the bane of our existence. Well,
yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm a pro, but when you're making them, that's all your free time from reading them. So.
yeah, and it's like, you kind of start seeing the seams and stuff.
Yeah.
Or I'll read a comic and it'll kind of, I don't know, like remind me of something that like I have a habit of doing, or something I wish I was doing, and that kind of takes me out of it. I think the last comic I read was Delicious in Dungeon Volume 7 by Ryoko Kui, and that was really good. It's a really good series.
Is that a manga series?
Yeah, it's like... It's kind of like Dungeons and Dragons, but like the main conceit is that, so there's this mega dungeon that, it's like so many levels deep or whatever. So people, they have to like adventurers and travelers, they have to like constantly go back to the surface to like resupply and like get more food, or whatever, and then go back down. So like nobody can ever make any real progress on it. But so the main characters, they figure out that they can eat the monsters in the dungeon. And so they can use that as like a food source, so they don't have to keep going back up, and they can go further and further. And, they have this dwarf friend who comes up with all these monster recipes, and all the recipes, like whole sequences about them, and like how much vitamins are in a particular recipe, how much, iron and protein and stuff. And so it's pretty good.
That I keep saying that I need to get into some manga and all that. This definitely sounds up my alley. And
it's great.
The crazy details of it. You're just like, okay, I think this is the kind of thing I can really dig into, because I'm not a D&D guy, in so much that I've just never had the opportunity to get into it. But I've always liked the aspects of it and the stats and all that kind of detail-oriented stuff. I listen to a few podcasts where people talk about creating systems and stuff like that. So hearing that, this is definitely something I'm gonna have to investigate.
Yeah, it's and there's a, like, besides the food details, there's a lot about like dungeon ecosystems and stuff like that, and like how the monsters like interact, and like what their behavior is like and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think you need to know like about D&D per se. It's just like an easy shorthand where there's like, well, there's like an elf character, so
yeah, just general knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's really good. That's the last book I read. It's great. So coffee, I guess I drink a lot of coffee, but like I drink like yuppie coffee, like Starbucks pumpkin spice latte and stuff like that.
I do you know Dave Scheid?
I don't think so.
Well, he's a awesome writer. I had him on last episode, and he was just talking about getting some sort of apple, like the flavored coffee or whatever like that, and that's totally fine. Everyone I've talked to so far about their coffee preferences have run the gamut of really high end preference stuff with us, with the pour over method to what tastes like it came out of a gas station in the middle of, bumfuck Georgia. Like, so, everyone's got their preferences. It's however we get our fix, right?
Yeah, I've never gotten into like, this like black coffee or like really strong stuff. But if it's like, like vanilla caramel, like instant latte mix, like sign me up. That's what I like.
It's funny because my wife, she can drink black coffee, but she also likes the flavored stuff as well. And I can't do either one of those. I guess I'm just kind of in the middle. I need a little bit of cream and sugar.
Yeah.
And I can't go too crazy with the flavors or anything like that. But yeah, she can just like go hardcore straight black coffee, and I'm just like I can't. I'm too much of a wimp for that.
Too much. It's too much. It's like a full activity in itself, like drinking the black coffee, and it's like I gotta I'm drinking it to work in the morning and stuff, but like drinking that super strong coffee, it's like you have to focus on it.
Yeah. That's all I can think of is how bitter it tastes.
Yeah, it's like an ordeal.
Yeah.
Getting through it. Yeah. So what's metal? What am I into right now? Oh man. Well, my favorite metal band, Blackguard, they came out with their latest album finally after like almost a decade back at the beginning of the year. So I've been listening to that a lot.
What kind of genre of metal would you classify them as?
It's like melodic death metal with like some folk stuff in it.
Okay.
Yeah, they're really good. They're from Montreal. What else am I into? I've been listening to this Polish goth metal band called Artrosis. They're pretty good. I just found them recently. I've been getting into some stuff that I used to be into like years ago that I kind of forgot about, like Graveworm and Cryptic Winter Moon. That's kind of more like, it's the kind of, I don't know, blackened death metal, I guess. It's similar. But yeah, that's usually the kind of stuff that I gravitate towards.
Yeah, I'm just kind of dipping my toes really into the more severe, like death metal kind of stuff. Like I didn't really get into like growled vocals or guttural vocals until fairly recently in my life.
Yeah.
And so now I'm starting to warm, and a lot of that melodic death stuff and stuff like the one I keep bringing up is like Flesh God Apocalypse.
Oh, I don't know them.
They're really good. Like it's like symphonic melodic death metal. Is like,
yeah, I love that stuff.
It's really awesome. Like they even also like put out instrumental versions of their stuff. Cool. So that's really cool. It's like I can. So whenever I finally get around to making a playlist for the car, I can bring that for the family because it just sounds like epic symphony music.
There's no like shrieking in it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's cool.
So stuff like that, and then I think I remember tweeting you about checking out Nightwish.
Oh yeah, they're good. I like them.
And there's another band that leads me into one of the things I want to talk about. There's a band called Amaranth.
Oh yeah, I like them too.
Yeah, and
had an album come out recently.
Yeah, and they're very prolific. They're like every 2 years on the dot. They're like new album out, done.
Yeah, I like them.
And they're kind of like a synth metal AC/DC. Like you know what you're gonna get, but it's what they do, and there's at least a fewer handful of good songs on every single album, so you can't argue with that.
Yeah, I like their the synth blending.
Yeah, they're really good at that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I want to talk to you about, because when I was talking to Ramon, he mentioned that you make synth music and stuff like that, which I didn't know, and I'm, utterly fascinated by comic people making music. And it's, so I'm always like wanting to know, like, where'd you start making that stuff? What kind of stuff do you use? Are you like straight all digital, or do you have like a separate synthesizer, or, you have like a crazy module setup or something, or is it just all plugins? Which is, everything is fine. Whatever it is. But I'm just curious.
Yeah, it's pretty, I don't know, straightforward. Like, I haven't been doing it that long. Like, it was always something that I wanted to do. But it was always like, if I get involved in like any kind of music, it's just going to like kill my work schedule. Like, I'm going to get too absorbed, and I'm just going to be blowing deadlines and stuff because I'm going to be too absorbed in like making music stuff. So I just never did it. And there was one, was it like 2017, I think, wasn't that long ago, where like, so I had just gotten an iMac computer, and I realized that it came with GarageBand, this like, computer music program. Mm-hmm. And it's just like this full version of the program, just free on the computer. And I was like, oh, maybe I should mess around with that. Nah, I better not. So I just thought, so I didn't do it. And then there was one day where it was really rainy, and so I sat down to go to work, and I realized that there was a leak in the ceiling, and it had dripped right down onto my Wacom tablet. Oh. And it had shorted it out, so I couldn't do any work. I couldn't draw. And so I put the pen in some rice, and it was all fine and everything. But for that day, I couldn't do any work, and I was just like, what should I even do? And I was like, oh, maybe I should mess around in GarageBand. And so like that's what got me started. I needed something to pull me away to force me not to be able to do any work, I guess. And so I just kind of taught myself how to do it, and I'm still learning. I don't know if what I'm doing is any good, but it's really fun. I think that's
the most important thing. It's fun. It's a change of pace creatively to do something. Like for myself, I can easily just go down rabbit holes playing music because, you're working on a part or a song or something, and it's like, oh, it's like 1 or 2 minutes, but then you're like working on it, 10 times over. That's 10 minutes, and then all of a sudden you've lost an hour.
Yeah, that's exactly how it is for me. Like I just, you get absorbed, and
So I had to take it to the extreme to where it's like, well, if I'm doing a project now, I have to write a piece of music for it, and I have to create soundtracks for it.
Yeah, that's cool.
So so that's kind of like been my quote unquote compromise with my musician self, is like, well, if I'm doing a project that's mine, I'll focus and make a soundtrack for it, which has been pretty cool to do and all that, and I've learned a ton recording and all that. But yeah, whenever I come across another comic person who's like, hey, I do music, or I play guitar, I'm like, oh, what I'm more interested in that than like, oh, you use a Wacom, what brushes do you use? Like,
yeah.
I'm like, to me those conversations are like been done to death, and I'm like, oh, you're using GarageBand? Okay, so what synths are you using? Do you like the are you programming your own patterns, using stock patterns? However you get it done. So it's just like going down that, I guess the other tool rabbit hole is a little bit more interesting for me. And it's funny you mentioned that the GarageBand was, it came stock on your iMac, because like now these days it's on your phone.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's cool.
It's on your phone. It's on your iPad. You can, and there's devices to hook up, so you can like just record whole albums into your iPad and import things and stuff like that. And it's kind of insane. I was talking to Brian Chirilla about that. Another artist. He's getting and recording and all that, and he got the iPad Pro, and he's like, "Hey, do you use GarageBand?" I'm like, I kind of use it a little bit here or there, but yeah, and it's just like this full version of the program with all the instruments and things like that, and all these like crazy synths and stuff that are, you know, I think Roland put out like a crazy powerful synth program for free when COVID hit for everybody to mess around with.
That's cool. Yeah.
So yeah, that kind of stuff just kind of interests me. Would you ever be like inclined to do that, like with a creator-owned project? Like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll consider writing like a theme song for it or something like that.
Yeah, definitely. Like I mostly do. It's just kind of random stuff, and then I do music for our D&D campaigns. Like I'll do like the theme song. You know?
That's awesome.
So I do that. That's like that like that's mostly it, like what I do. But I feel like mostly I've been doing like licensed stuff, you know, for a while. So it's like I don't really feel right like making music for this. But I did do a theme song for a giant monster comic that I have yet to do. So, you know, I'm kind of dabbling in that. But maybe when I get back to my creator-owned stuff, I'll try to do something like that and try to like time it for when the book comes out.
Well, I for one would be all for that. You know, there's been a few people lately who have kind of done some music for books and stuff like that. Like Daniel Warren Johnson did his own soundtrack for Murder Falcon, and
that's cool.
And I know, of course, I'm spacing on it. My buddy Joe Mulvey and Rich Dueck, they got a song commissioned for the song Wailing Blade, for their story Wailing Blade and stuff like that. And so just hearing that, you know, that's the stuff I eat up. So I'm definitely for you doing that. And you've perfectly transitioned into my next thing is giant monsters. I know you're a big Kaiju fan.
Yeah.
To say the least. The collections you've shown online are just amazing. So are you more to Gamera than Godzilla, or more Godzilla than Gamera?
Definitely Gamera. He's definitely my favorite. I actually renounced Godzilla for several years. I don't know how much you've seen or if this is like means anything to you, but like in 2004, he had a movie come out called Final Wars.
Yes.
Which was, you know, it's supposed to be like the last Godzilla movie. Has like, you know, all these monsters in it. It's supposed to be this big extravaganza or whatever. And I hated it. Like I was like, that's the worst. It's terrible. And I just you know, renounced Godzilla. I got rid of like all my Godzilla toys and stuff back in 2004 or 5. And like, you know, I was only into, you know, Gamera for years until Shin Godzilla came out. And, you know, that had like a kind of like a limited theater run. And I was like, well, it's Godzilla. I guess I'll go give it a shot. And, you know, I was like a Gamera elitist where I like, you know, turned my nose up at these other monsters. But, you know, Shin Godzilla was great. And, you know, I got back into Godzilla, and yeah, I mean, Gamera is still the best though.
I as much as I love Godzilla, Gamera holds that soft spot in my heart. I think just because he's a giant turtle, and friend to all children.
Yeah.
But just, you know, I've got the Blu-rays of the I'm gonna forget the name of it, but the series that was out in the 90s. Yeah,
the Heisei series.
The Heisei series.
Yeah.
And I was watching those. I was like, man, these are really good. And then I remembered there was some sort of trailer a few years ago about like a gritty reboot or whatever.
Yeah, in 2015.
Something like that. And for some reason, my brain had conflated that to being like a thing that's actually happening.
Well, we all thought it was going to happen. It was like, I don't know, you know, they called it like a sizzle reel or something for this new movie, and it just never, you know, there was like a director and everything, and like nothing happened with it, and it just kind of Yeah, I don't really know what happened. They just don't have the budget, I guess.
I guess so. Well, what's your feeling on these newest American Godzilla movies?
I hate them, man.
Oh,
Uh, actually, no, that's not true. I really liked Kong Skull Island,
okay.
which was surprising because I don't think I've ever liked a King Kong movie. And, I didn't see it in the theater. I'm not crazy about the 2014 Godzilla.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I guess I'll, rent Skull Island on, Prime or whatever. And I really liked it. I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, I was kind of mixed. I think it was such a tonal shift from how serious and like heavy the 2014 movie was trying to be that it was just kind of like almost off-putting in a way for Skull Island. But I've caught in clips of it and parts of it from time after, and it's starting to warm on me. So I'm probably gonna have to give that like a revisit, especially since Kong versus Godzilla is coming out sometime.
Who knows? I hated the 2019 Godzilla though. I hated it. It just felt really bad or something. It just like made me feel bad or something.
It's very serious. I enjoyed it for giant monster fights, though it was it was a bit overtly serious, I think, but it was cool seeing well done CGI of these giant monsters fighting and stuff like that, even though it's still like all at night and and all that. But
I feel like I don't know. The CG it doesn't work for me. I feel like I felt like 2014 was pretty good with it, but I felt like and King of the Monsters, I felt like the CG it's like too detailed or something for me. And like especially when they do like close-ups of the monsters, it's just like you don't know what to look at. There's just too much. There's like a million different things moving just on like Godzilla's face.
So kind of like the Transformers effect.
It's exactly like that. Where it's just like there's just too much stuff like shifting and like gliding over this form is it's too much. I hate it, and like I don't know.
I can totally understand that.
Yeah, it's just that's King of the Monsters for me. It's just too much. Like everything's just too much.
It's kind of like when they did the Incredible Hulk movie with Ed Norton. That version of the Hulk was just like completely like all ripped and all striations and stuff, and then it just looked so. There's just so much muscle and stuff going on.
Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I can't really explain the difference between like 2014 Godzilla and 2019. Cause like 2014, I it's not my favorite, but I think Godzilla like looks pretty good. And like, maybe it's just, they just don't have him like move as much,
Yeah, he's definitely moving faster in the King of the Monsters.
I don't know what it is. Like they just have, like there's more points of articulation on like the 3D rigging or whatever. Yeah, I don't know what it is. But then like Shin Godzilla is all CG and that looks great. And
and I've yet to see that, which is
you gotta see it. It's so good.
That's what everyone tells me. You gotta see it, and I'm like I will just just. It seems like one of those movies I have to sit down and watch.
Oh yeah.
And
like, not that it's like super complex or anything, but there's just like.
No, yeah, you want to give it its due, and you don't want to like half pay attention and only look up when he's when Godzilla's on the screen or whatever.
Yeah, and just like a lot of text, like everybody like talks really fast, and there's just like a lot of stuff like coming at you all the time. But yeah, it's really good. I feel like at this point, like another thing like that Shin got that. Okay, let me start. A thing about Shin that got me back into it was that it was just like, there's never really been a Godzilla like that. And it's like, he's all like fucked up looking. He's got these googly eyes, and he's got like, he's like black and red, and he's just weird. He's got a face on his tail for some reason.
It kind of brought back more of that, just like it's a danger to everybody.
Yeah.
And not just like, oh, is he humanity's, protector or whatever. It's like, no, this is a
fucked up weird thing. And like, you've never seen a Godzilla like this before. And I felt like that's what really got me back in and kind of like, made me appreciate the other stuff more. But like the MonsterVerse Godzilla, it's like the most vanilla Godzilla imaginable. Like he's like 2014, he's kind of got his own, like a new fresh thing going on. But then in King of the Monsters, it's like, okay, like let's just kind of like sand all the edges off Godzilla. And
it's like, he's the good guy. We know he's the good guy.
Right. He's the good guy. He fights these monsters that we've seen before. He has like his old big like maple leaf spines again, which is fine. Those are great. But like, 2014 is like, let's just give him these little dainty kind of mountains on his back, which was cool. And it just felt like, and then at the end, like all the monsters like bow down to him because he's like the best monster. I don't know. It's just, it felt like, it felt like Godzilla for like your grandpa or something, where just like, yeah, like this really like kind of baseline Godzilla. And I feel like I need more than that at this point. And then like, there was like the anime Netflix Godzilla trilogy, which everybody hated, but like,
I was definitely not a fan of that one.
But in that one, Godzilla, he's this like, he's got abs and he's like a plant and his spines look like literal leaves. And I'm like, this is what I need.
I mean, I appreciate the differences they were making and the changes they made and kind of just going in that kind of crazy direction, like Mechagodzilla being a city,
Yeah, that's cool.
and things like that. It's just the execution for me was just like, I hate to say boring because
it's definitely pretty dry in parts.
Yeah,
yeah.
It just wasn't for me. But
did you make it all the way through to Planet Eater? With Ghidorah, he comes down out of space.
I think I got like halfway through that, and I just tapped out.
Planet Eater is so good. I watched it like a bunch of times. But, like,
I'll give it another shot because I still pretty much remember what happened with the other ones. So,
Ghidorah, he's just like these heads with these really long necks, and there's just he has all these weird eyes on his face, and it's just weird, and like he's not just a dragon anymore, and that's kind of that's more like what I need, I guess.
Well, yeah, like, if someone's going to take it into a different direction then, because otherwise, why bother unless you're going to go super faithful and do Man in Suit?
Or even like, there was like a Shin Godzilla versus Evangelion. Like, I can't remember if it was like a ride, like a theme park thing or something like that. But they did this whole kind of like CG short film where like, the Ava robots like team up with Shin Godzilla, and they had a new Ghidorah for that movie, and it was great. It was like he was still like a dragon, but he was just like, I don't know, he was like fresh. He's like, I don't know. You did, but yeah, you got to see it, and it was just more fresh than King of the Monsters Ghidorah, where it's just like, okay, he's exactly the same as the old one, but he's like spikier or whatever.
Well, that's that I'm sure entirely due to the the people who are making it, because in Japan they're like, we've seen this already, let's get crazy with this shit.
Yeah.
And America's like, oh, how can we make this? How can we remake this American? And that's always remaking anything in America. It's all the CG, make whatever villain or whatever monsters, or make them spikier, make them bigger, make them whatever, or if you're gonna make Transformers, make them all gears and moving parts, because
they just like take everything and they just like multiply it into I don't know. I don't think there should be any non-Japanese Godzilla movies anymore. I mean, I don't think there ever should have been. It's weird. There just shouldn't. I can't wait till the MonsterVerse is over, and then Toho can make their own.
I'm sure they're just doubling down on this Kong versus Godzilla thing, because King of the Monsters didn't do super great in the box office. Skull Island did well, and I know Godzilla did okay. So it's kind of like, well, unless Kong Godzilla is, $1 billion movie, I doubt they're gonna even try anymore.
Yeah, and like, I mean, I don't know what the contract is like, because I know the MonsterVerse, it's gonna expire at some point, and Toho's gonna like be able to make live action stuff again, which is why they're doing all the cartoons instead. So yeah, I think it was designed. The contract was meant to end at some point. But yeah, maybe it would change if Godzilla versus Kong was like $1 billion movie or something.
Yeah, it's not going to be.
I doubt it.
It's as much as I do enjoy the more recent American Godzillas, but that's just because I like a good big monster fight, and to be honest, my heart's still kind of broken that we didn't get a proper Pacific Rim sequel. And I don't know what your feelings are on Pacific Rim, but it's
it's not my favorite. I don't like giant monsters fighting giant robots. It's like I know that's
the premise itself is enough.
I know that's like a really particular thing, but and like sometimes it can be okay. Like Kiryu Mecha Godzilla from like Tokyo SOS or whatever. Like he's okay because he's like a cyborg, so it's like different than a giant robot.
Oh, is that the one that was the bones of the original Godzilla? Yeah.
Yeah. So he has like Godzilla's bones and like spirit like inside of like a metallic shell or whatever. So it's different. It's like my like criteria is met differently or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. In Pacific Rim, like all the monsters like kind of looked the same, and they all had like, I don't know, they all had like too many arms or whatever. It was okay. The sequel was okay, I thought. But I guess you didn't like the second one.
It was fine. I feel like
it was definitely fine.
They did a few characters from the original a little dirty, but that's okay.
Yeah. I don't remember what her name is. Getting exploded in a helicopter crash. It's just kind of
like, all right. But I like John Boyega.
He's great.
Charlie Day and the I forget the other guy, the other scientist guy. They were fun.
Yeah.
It was nice seeing monster fights in daytime.
God, yeah. Like, why does everybody want it to be at night all the time?
It's a lot cheaper, I think.
Maybe you're right. Or maybe it just looks cooler.
And then what I appreciated with the Del Toro stuff was it was definitely more stylized, and just I'm a fan of his work to begin with. So I do see what you mean though about the monsters being kind of similar, because a Del Toro monster is going to look like a Del Toro monster. There's going to be tentacles at some point, or some kind of weird like jaw thing, or like and just but I was there for it, so to speak. I love giant robots, so for that, the premise itself was enough for me.
Yeah.
But But you're saying that that's not your bag, so
Yeah,
right there.
I'd much rather the robot be like a city, like Mecha Godzilla. Just why can't it just be a city instead?
Well, then you don't get people in mech suits doing jazzercise to control it.
Yeah.
I guess.
I'm just like I'm just really like persnickety about stuff like that. But Gamera, that's another reason why he's so great, because he never fights robots.
Nope.
No robots in those movies.
Yet, I guess. I don't know
No,
if
don't
America
jinx
ever gets their hands on them.
Don't jinx it. There's gonna be like a Mecha Gamera or some nonsense like that. Robots fighting robots is fine, but I don't want to mix. I don't want them fighting each other.
So, if you had your choice, would you immediately drop everything and work on like a Gamera comic, or is it something like?
Yeah, that'd be so good.
I'm surprised there's not really any Gamera comics.
Yeah, there's the Dark Horse stuff from the 90s.
Yeah.
And then there's been like some stuff in Japan, like kind of small stuff. But yeah, there's never been like an American one besides that like 4-issue Dark Horse thing in like 95 or whenever that was.
Yeah, I could totally see like a YA Young Gamera like series when he's still like not super giant yet, and
yeah, it could be like Gamera the Brave,
yeah, exactly,
like just learning the ropes.
So you mentioned that you're kind of working on a giant monster book. Is that something you can talk about a little bit, or is that just something that's still just
I guess I can talk about it a little bit. It's something that I wrote like a big story Bible for back in like 2004 when I had just signed with Tokyo Pop, and I wrote a pitch for this giant monster thing, and I wrote a pitch for a zombie book, and they opted for zombies, and the giant monster thing got shelved, and it's just been on the back burner ever since, and it's kind of like it's just like, I don't know. It's like, well, if I start drawing this, it's going to be like a major undertaking because I got to draw like cities and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I'll put it back on the shelf until I'm ready. And then it's just kind of been there for decades. But I am talking to a new publisher about maybe doing it and, retooling stuff since I wrote it in 2004. But basically, it's about a monster who comes down from space, and her impact gives off this like radiation that affects regular animals that start turning into monsters. And then the main monster, she's like, she feels bad or whatever, so she goes around the world to like clean up her mess and like get rid of all the other monsters and like make up for all the damage that she caused. And that's like kind of the basic idea.
That sounds like a pretty awesome premise to me. Like,
it's gonna be
I'm
good.
sold. I'm definitely sold. This is like a kind of like an ongoing thing, or more like a series, a miniseries situation, or are you thinking, or?
We're still talking about it. It's probably gonna be like a graphic novel format thing.
Ah, even better.
Yeah, so it'll be like, like 100, 150 page, kind of just like one and done. And then I guess if it does really well, there can be other follow-ups with like, different monsters and stuff.
That's awesome.
But yeah, drawing all the city, like military vehicles. Ugh.
Yeah, that's one thing that kind of puts me off about just wanting to like draw some crazy big monster fights. It's like, oh god, I gotta draw the skyscrapers and
yeah. I keep trying to think about like how can I avoid that stuff? Like what if what if it's like in the distant future where there is no military. So I don't have
you don't have to try to accurately draw some kind of crazy military weapon, or you'd be super hung up on, you know, real life reference, or you know, all these fights take place in like national parks. I don't know.
Right, like that's the main hang up, I guess, is like making sure it's like, you know, like it's much easier to kind of just invent your own like helicopter.
Yeah.
And not have to be like, okay, you know, I have to look at this particular model, and there's like, it's got this protrusion here and this vent, and then yeah, that's like, it's just too much. Or you know, it could be like a lot of the old 70s Godzilla movies. They just fight in these kind of like fields where there's like nothing around. I could do something like that. I don't know.
Well, that would be like a great like homage to that kind of stuff too. So it's not necessarily like you're, you know, skimping out on backgrounds or cities. It's like, no, you're paying homage to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I could have at least a couple of fights in these kind of barren fields.
That kind of reminds me of I was listening to Rob Liefeld's podcast.
Oh, is that any good?
It's Rob Liefeld being Rob Liefeld on his podcast. Cool. You take a, you know, he's got all that energy and that.
Yeah, I should listen to it.
You're very, you know, I'm Rob Liefeld, like, but it's also, you know, and he's entertaining.
Yeah.
And I'm not, and this isn't trying to diss him, but he's also like very, you know, he doesn't shy away from exalting himself up for what he's done. But it's cool kind of hearing some of the backstories you didn't really get on things and stuff like that. And but one of the things he mentioned was when Jim Lee was doing the Punisher stuff, he says at conventions guys were coming up to Jim Lee and saying like, oh man, you know, they had like, you know, issues with like guns and ammo and like, I love how you accurately drew this and this and this and this. And then Rob's like, man, I am never going to do that. So that's kind of like the impetus for like him drawing all those crazy ass cable guns.
That's pretty
that
cool.
Just have like no like bearing in reality. This is because he didn't want to be like, he didn't want to go down that road to where he's going to be scrutinized for not drawing this pistol correctly or something like that. So yeah, that's what that kind of reminded me of. But yeah, was it the Raw Observations podcast?
Yeah.
The stuff he gets into with like the history stuff, I think about, you know, the stuff we're all interested in, the Image stuff, or the story about how he did the Fighting American and got sued by Marvel and Heroes Reborn and all that. That was kind of interesting because I never heard those stories before and all that. You know, depending on your preference, I wouldn't listen to too many of them in a row. His Todd McFarlane impersonation went from, you know, funny to like, okay, we get it, you do Todd. Like
that's probably worth a listen by itself, just to hear that.
I mean, the first time I heard him do that was the first convention I went to. It was in 2008, and it was the Image Founders panel at Wizard World, and all of them except Jim Lee showed up, and he just like busted out Todd, and that was the first time I heard it. It was the funniest shit I ever heard. And then and I must say, like, his impression's coming back around again to where it's making me chuckle, but it's, you know, yeah, it's just, he does it a lot. So it's very high energy and all that, but yeah, it's definitely worth a listen if you're a fan of like any of that kind of stuff. Or just, you know, kind of curious about the craziness that was the 90s. Like, you know, he was there front row and center. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So whatever grains of salt you want to throw onto what his side of the stories are, just, you know, there's I'm sure there's plenty of truth there though. So
yeah, it sounds pretty interesting. Definitely a weird era of comics, and like, you know, everybody's driving sports cars and stuff, and
like Stephen Platt's getting like 55,
right,
you know, 50 grand for an issue, and it's
right,
like,
what the, yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and you know, most artists would kill for 50 grand in 2 years.
Period, yeah.
So, but yeah, that's remember that. But yeah, I would suggest, you know, cherry picking some episodes and checking that out if that's what you're interested in checking out. But aside from that, you know, that monster story you mentioned, like I'm all for it. Like I've been wanting to get into some monster comics and stuff, and I wanted to check out some of the IDW Godzilla stuff. I've heard varying things on it, but I know there's been some really great artists on there, at least. And
yeah,
Jen Stocco did a series, and
Yeah,
Dave
like
Wachter did it for a while, and
he did a bunch.
so yeah, just some really great artists contributing to that. So at least it'll look nice.
Yeah,
If the
Simon
story's not grabbing.
did some really cool issues.
Okay.
But yeah, it's pretty good. I haven't read all of those because like most of that stuff came during the period where I had renounced Godzilla. You know, I've gone back and read some of it.
So have you read Kaiju Max at all from Xander Cannon?
I've read like a very small amount, and like I know everybody loves it and everything, and I like the art, and Xander Cannon is cool, but it didn't. I don't know. Like I think it's just me being persnickety with like kaiju stuff. You know, like it scratches this like really specific itch for me, and like Kaiju Max was like. You know, it just like monsters in prison. I don't want to read about that. That's not like a judgment call or anything. It's just
no, totally. I picked up the first trade on the same recommendations. You know, everyone's saying it's fantastic, it's amazing, and you know all the same things you've just said. Like the art's great. The premise, you know, I like it. It's a nice original premise. It's not done badly. It just wasn't grabbing me.
We should both go back and try it again. We should do it.
Yeah, you know, I ended up giving away the first volume, but I'm sure I'm leaning to all digital now anyway. But yeah, you know, that would be because I think he's up to volume three just came out. I think.
Oh, that's it. I thought for some reason I thought there was like a ton more.
I could be completely wrong. I don't know. I really wasn't. I'm just trying to remember the last time I remember seeing a volume number attached to it. But the comic shop that whenever I do go to a comic shop in Chicago, Challengers, they're huge supporters of that book, and they were one of the primary people to like, you know, push it. So I was like, okay, you know, they have good taste. So, and again, it's a well done book and not trashing it at all. It just wasn't something that was hitting me. You know,
shit. I'm looking at, or I'm on Amazon trying to figure out how many volumes there are. And this one cover, it's got a giant robot on it. That's not a good sign.
We're losing Sophie.
God, why am I like this? It does look pretty fun.
Well, you know, time changes things because you know.
Yeah. I think, because like I think I gave it a shot like many years ago, and like maybe it just wasn't the right time.
Yeah, I think I don't know when the first volume came out, but that's like whenever that first trade came out is when I first tried it, and so that's many years ago at this point. And you know, because time changes tastes. Yeah,
I really like the main monster too. He's cute. He's like kind of a bug. Yeah, I like him though. Yeah, I should give it a shot. Maybe I could just get Oni to send me a bunch of free copies.
Hey, there you go. What are the perks of?
Yeah, because I put out Wet Moon through them.
Yeah. So yeah,
there's like a whale kaiju that looks cool.
I mean, there's tons of cool looking monsters in there. Like, there's one with like a guy in like a top hat or something like that. I think. Just all kinds of like just weird like oddball kind of monster things, and it's like and I thought they looked cool and all that. Just the main story just wasn't getting me.
Oh, he uses those little like those little like insignias that Toho uses for their monsters. Really? Like, you know, when there's a particular monster in a particular movie, like they'll have that seal on it. He uses those on the covers of his books.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
That's a good idea. I should rip that off.
Well, it's clear he has a deep love for the genre and
absolutely,
and knowledge of it, and would most certainly dwarf any kind of knowledge I have on it. But so maybe it's worth another shot. I I've been trying to do a series with a podcast called Blind Spot, where I kind of like go down a road of something I haven't checked out before. And right now it's just been relegated to music, but I should probably see if I can snap up all the Kaiju Maxes and just go down there and kind of, because it's kind of one of those things too, where like so many people I know love that series so much. It's kind of like, well, I want to love it too. Like, I want to talk about this with you guys.
Yeah, and like I think another thing is like I've been getting more into like Ultraman stuff in the past several years, and that was another thing that like I kind of just turned my nose up at for the longest time, because it's kind of similar to the giant monster or the giant robot thing.
Yeah,
where it's like, but it's like a guy, it's like a person fighting the giant monsters, and that's stupid. Like, I don't want to see that. And there was like some Kaiju Max thing that has these like, you know, like obvious Ultraman references.
Yes.
And I was just like, forget it. It's no good. It's no good. But like now that I've been watching like a ton of Ultraman, and it's great. And you know, I was stupid for turning my nose up at like a person in a suit. So like maybe I would appreciate it now. Like now that I've broken down that barrier. Ultraman barrier.
It's probably time then. Send that email to Oni.
Oh, God, yeah, I really should. I should just DM my editor or whatever and be like, send me a bunch of Kaiju Max books
for research.
Yeah, research. Sorry, I'm just like now I'm just like I'm scrolling down all these like Kaiju Max cover images.
No, that's
it's like a little Gamera monster too.
Oh, is there now?
At least on this cover, he looks like more like he's like a flying turtle with like tusks.
All right. Well, it's settled.
Yeah, I'm
gonna have to figure this out.
I guess I better read this. But he looks more like a walrus. He's got like tusks on the top. That's pretty cool.
Okay.
I like that. He's even got like all the kanji, katakana text and everything. Man, Kaiju Max is the real deal.
The work is definitely put in there. That's for sure. So you've had some creator-owned stuff with like Wet Moon and the zombie book you mentioned with Tokyo Pop, and some stuff here and there, but you've been doing largely licensed stuff. And I remember I really first came across your work, not that I wasn't aware of it, but I really became aware with Glory. Yeah. And for some reason I just didn't put together right now that, you worked on a Rob Liefeld property. Yeah. Tell me about the Rob Liefeld bike.
Rob Liefeld saved my career.
And I remember seeing that and being like, oh wow, that's such a cool take on the character. Just like, that was just such a, not disparaging, but it was very much a Wonder Woman type, I guess, template or
she's like a similar character.
But then taking that and just like, just changing the look, making her just like this big, powerful, physically imposing presence and all that. But coupled with the stylish nature of your art, it was just like such a like, oh wow, this is really cool. Like, it was around that time when he was doing some interesting stuff with his properties and letting people kind of run wild a little bit with it here and there. And since then you've moved on, and I remember the first time I saw that you were going to be doing a TMNT book. And I was like, oh, no shit. Like, this is perfect. Yeah. I felt your style was just like, oh, that is like just, yes. And then I don't, the timeline kind of gets fuzzy a few years ago, because once my daughter was born, I stopped buying comics regularly. Yeah. So, but were you part of like a regular rotating arc team with the main series for a while?
Not really. It wasn't like,
because I know you did the Northampton stuff.
Yeah, that was like, I think that was the only arc I did on the main series.
Okay.
And most of the previous stuff I'd done were they're like one shots or whatever, or I did like a mini series for TMNT Universe, which was like the companion series. So yeah, I'd only done like a handful of like main ongoing arcs.
Okay.
At Northampton, I think I just did like number 66 of the ongoing, which was just like a standalone kind of issue.
Okay.
But yeah, I definitely wasn't like, like rotating on the main book or anything like that.
Well, again, yeah, my timeline gets fuzzy because shortly after that is when I had to stop buying regularly, unfortunately. But, your art had made such an impression on the book just because, again, your style was just such a natural fit, I think. And that book's been, had killer artist after killer artist. And, you're still involved with the property. And I was wondering, like, how does it feel to, I guess, have been able to contribute such a, Jenica and that kind of stuff? Like, how does that feel contributing to like a property that beloved?
It's pretty great. Especially since like, it's been like really like there hasn't been a lot of stuff that they just tell me, no, I can't do it. Mm-hmm. Especially now that, like now I'm like, that head writer on the series and everything. Yeah. And like, there hasn't been any ideas where I'm like, let's introduce this character and do this. And they're just like, no, you can't do that. So it's really exciting and, rewarding being able to be like, what if Raphael had a cute dinosaur sidekick? And they're like, sure, go for it, and then that's part of, the Ninja Turtles tapestry or whatever. Now, Raph has a pet dinosaur named Pepperoni.
And I totally am remiss in not bringing that up immediately because that is just amazing in of itself.
Yes.
When Pepperoni first showed up, I was like, this is amazing. Like, just again, it seems like you have a great handle, not only on the designs and the characters, but just like now that you're kind of you're the head writer, right? So
yeah,
you have a handle on like the feel of the series. And I'm sure they obviously feel the same way because you're the boss now. So, and for those who don't know, Jenica is the official 5th Ninja Turtle.
Yeah.
I don't know if they count Slash as a Ninja Turtle. I don't think
Slash. He's not a ninja.
Oh, there you go. So there was Jenica's the 5th Ninja Turtle, and I've seen nothing but just like people just going nuts for her being included and stuff like that. And I was just like, well, again, as we mentioned at the very beginning, reading comics kind of falls away when you're busy making them and all that. But it's definitely given me a point to like, okay, I need to go back. I need to start like catching up because again, I loved the IDW TMNT series, and that was one of the things I missed the most when I kind of dropped off. So I need to like go all the way back and catch up because seeing and kind of reading about where you've taken the book now, I'm like, this is so like awesome. And like just not something they've done before. And I'm really excited to see like, to get to that point and kind of experience all that stuff as these kind of crazy changes are happening and stuff like that. Is there, was there a lot of debate in terms of the color for Jenica or
like her
the bandana color? Because that's
no, not really. There, I mean, because like credit goes to Tom Waltz, the writer who, because like he had been trying to get a 5th turtle in there for a while, and just stuff just does sometimes just doesn't happen or whatever. And so when he contacted me about designing Jenica's mutated turtle form, because she had been around since like, you know, issue 50 something as a human.
Yeah.
And you know, he already had the yellow, which like would have been my pick anyway, because I had been doing a fan comic on DeviantArt where I had a fifth girl turtle whose color was yellow. So it's like, I mean, one, there's like not many colors left to pick from, but you know, yeah, I would have made it like yellow anyway, and I think it, you know, it fits and it looks nice, like visually. But yeah, there wasn't any debate on the color. I don't remember there, like it was pretty smooth sailing, like all around. Like I designed her turtle look, and I remember, like, you know, Tom was like, okay, I'm going to take this into the Nickelodeon pitch meeting or whatever. And I was like, oh my God. I'm like pacing or whatever, like waiting to hear back. Yeah, and it was fine. They're like, go, sure, go ahead. You know, then it took another, you know, couple of years or whatever before I ever got to show anybody those designs. Cause like, you know, everything like is planned so far ahead.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that far ahead.
Yeah, it was a while before she got mutated, like after I designed her.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Have they had like
it's very smooth sailing.
Have they had like Jenica toys or anything like that yet? Or
there's no toys for the, like, based on the comic stuff.
Oh, okay.
It's like completely separate. The toys are always from the cartoon.
The cartoon, yeah, that's right. And Nickelodeon's, you know, more than handling the cartoon aspect.
Yeah, in the movies. So
I'm going to assume you have a very particular fondness for Jenica. Is there, of the original four, I'm sorry, you've probably had this question a million times ever since you ever touched a turtle property, but I haven't seen it. Who's your favorite?
If you'd asked me when I was a kid, it would have been Raphael, but now it's Leonardo.
All right. There's no right answer, but that's the right answer.
Of course not.
But Leonardo's the right answer.
Yeah.
Mikey is also a close accepted second, just because who doesn't like Mikey?
Yeah, he's good. But yeah, definitely Leo. I feel like, I don't know, like whenever I think of, you know, just kind of a random story, or like when I think of, like, you know, each character and just the like random story ideas that kind of spring to mind, it's almost always like, oh, like Leo should do this. Or yeah, I kind of wish I was focusing more on him in the current series, but it's like, oh, there's so many characters, so it's difficult to juggle everybody.
Yeah, and you know, as much as I love Leo, he's been given lots of times to shine, you know, in the other properties and stuff like that, and I've always liked that when they've showed him, like in the original the CG TMNT movie, when they kind of showed him like going off and like being some sort of like necessarily freedom fighter, but like, you know, off in another country fighting terrorists or whatever, you know, just kind of doing his thing. I always appreciated that, but and I think a lot of my love of Leo probably stems from the fact that one of my brothers loved Raphael so much. So it's kind of, it's like 90% Leo, 10% fuck you, I love you, because you like Raphael. And also of the color is probably blue. And also I can't pick Donatello because of my name, because everyone's like, oh, but you like Donatello. I was like,
yeah, that's awesome.
Yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly why I chose him.
That's obnoxious.
But yeah, it's still kind of crazy to me, like looking back now, that how much like good turtle stuff there's been in the past decade or so, and you know, your contributions to that were certainly no small part. Again, like I said, whenever I saw that you were coming out to the book, I was like, it's just such a perfect fit, especially with like you know, the designs and this like the fluidity, and I think that really helped the book shine a bit more in my eyes.
Yeah, thanks.
So
It's been.
so I appreciate you taking my questions. I'm sure you've had a million questions about turtle stuff.
It's totally fine. The the reception has been like really good. Just like with like what I'm doing, just Jenica being around, it's been like surprisingly good. There's still some people who hate it, obviously, but
Yeah, but fuck them.
Sophie Campbell's killing Ninja Turtles, which maybe is true. I don't know. Like maybe I am, but
no. I mean, if the next mutation didn't kill the Ninja Turtles,
that's true. That's true.
No, it's what's probably the same people who are upset about the newest cartoon.
Yeah, and I think it's also like, like I don't know, not just like IDW Turtles, but like historically in Turtles there hasn't been like a ton of romance. There's been some, but I think maybe like me doing like slightly more romance stuff, that's kind of like a point of contention. And just like I do characters talking about their feelings or whatever. So people don't like that. But it's I don't know, and it's weird because like the old Mirage Turtles comics, those are like my favorite comics, ever, and those are the Turtles that I grew up with. The old, murdering people, red mask, swearing ninja stuff. Like those are like my Turtles. And I feel like if I was starting like from ground zero, like my own Ninja Turtles universe, like just starting from scratch, it would definitely be more like Mirage. It would be like much simpler, like less characters, obviously. Just like really kind of like down to earth, kind of gritty stuff, I guess. But like, I feel like with IDW Turtles, it's just like not that, and like I come on the book and there's like, there's like the mutagen bomb has gone off and like all these people are mutants now.
Yeah.
And
there's aliens and there's
Jenica and Shredder's a good guy and there's just stuff like that, and I'm just like, how I can't, like, as much as I love those old comics, it's like I can't make it like that. It's not going to be like that. It's like, yeah, it's like this whole other thing. It's like its own.
Well, yeah, at this point, the world has been built out so much that taking it back to that is just kind of it's not going to be that book. You might as well just reboot it again.
Yeah,
and just erase all the rest of that.
And I guess
and you're not going to do that, so you just got to move forward.
It's, like I don't know, like they hired me to direct Turtles for a while, and I'm gonna do what I do. There's gonna be feelings and crying,
but plenty of punching and kicking, and
and there's gonna be like a goth club at some point. It's just how it goes. I had the Turtles go to a metal show in one issue. It's like it has to be done.
Well, no, it's like I was saying, is the world has been built and you've inherited it, and you're just adding to it, expanding on it, and you can't just keep escalating things. So you have to, have to have these people, these characters, interact in more meaningful ways, and that includes talking about their feelings and developing relationships and going to clubs and doing these things, because if people are going to complain about that, but these are the same people who probably like, oh, I love those old X-Men issues where they played softball all day in the entire issue and whatever. And it's like, well, that's the same shit. So it's like, it's more or less just like complaining to complain. And I'm sure 100% that the people who love what you're doing love it far more than the people who don't like what you're doing don't like it.
Yeah, probably. And it's fine. Nobody's obligated to like it. And that kind of thing comes with the job, with like any like licensed property. Like
yeah, no one's going to be 100% happy. You're not going to have a universally beloved run these days anymore, thanks to the internet. Someone's not going to like it, and
yeah, and it's just like me not liking Godzilla King of the Monsters. It's like, it doesn't like I'm not
you're not obligated to like it, and you'll wait until the next thing.
Like everybody, like every fan or whatever has their own kind of vision for the characters, and it's not always gonna fulfill. It's not gonna, like, you're not always gonna get to see what you think the character should be, me included.
Exactly. And you would think that we would be, us comic fans, and from the fan aspect, would be used to that at this point, but apparently it's still news to some people that sometimes things you enjoy will go in a direction you're not wanting them to go to. But regardless, whatever that small minority of people don't care for it, all I see is just excitement and praise for what you do. It's definitely got me, again, making it a priority to go back and get caught up so I can fully immerse myself in that world and appreciate all the stuff Tom Waltz and all the other contributors have done and what you're going to be doing or have been doing. And that's
you should just start with issue 101. Just start 101. Start with my issues.
Hey, that.
No, I'm kidding. Tom is great.
Well, no, he's been there from the beginning of the relaunch, and I really loved what he did, but also my wallet might better appreciate starting with 101.
Yeah, those hardcovers, I think they're pretty pricey.
I'm gonna have to. Yeah, it'd be digital.
That's better. You're right.
I have plenty of nice trades and all that, but these days I'm like, yeah, it's just gonna stay on the shelf unless it's on my iPad.
There's got to be some kind of like, I'm looking it up. Like, do they have those good collections on Comixology? I'm just like,
I'm sure they have like sales and stuff like that. So it's got to keep my
just doing searches while we're like doing a podcast here. Yeah, oh yeah, they do. Whoa, this is a great deal. Yeah, they have like the big chronological collections for like $13 each. That's great.
Wow, that's crazy.
Normally they're like $50.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, you should definitely get those because it packages like all the side series and like mini series and stuff in chronological order.
Which, they've really kind of expanded out on that. Which, great, expand the world and all that. But it's also like, oh, that's a lot of stuff to keep up on.
Yeah, it's a lot. But like the big collections, it makes it way easier because you don't have to like hunt anything down. Or like wonder like, well, where does this fit into the timeline or whatever? Because it's all presented that way. It's nice.
Well, that's good for news for me. That's good for news anyone listening. Go to Comixology, get some of these TMNT collections, and catch up.
Well, some of the later ones are a little more expensive. I see what they're doing.
Yeah, that's how they get you.
Yeah, although most of them are $13. Looks like
it's like the $10 image trade for the first volume, and then the next one's like $16.
Yeah, well, it looks like they're generally $25, but there must be some kind of sale going on because they're all like listed as $13. It's pretty good.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. You should just get all of those.
Well, Sophie, looking at my producer, which is the post-it note on my monitor saying that I gotta let you go.
Yeah, we gotta go eat dinner, and then we gotta go watch our horror movie in my group chat with Ramon.
So, thank you so much for coming on. I had a
Yeah,
great
thanks
time
for
talking
having
to you. If you want to let everybody know where in the internet they can find you, and if there's anything you wanted to plug immediately, now's the time.
I am at Mooncalf1 at Twitter. That's MOONCALFE in the number 1. That's like my main hub. That's where I that's like my home base. And I guess I should just plug go read my Ninja Turtles comic.
There you go. Every month from IDW.
Yeah, I'm back on drawing interiors, so
Frosting on the cake, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, Sophie, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.